And I'll give you a little, if you take a peek at the tail, if you know anything about any kinds of raptors, what color is his tail? It's kind of tricky, right? It's striped. But we call this a red-tailed hawk. And so it has a little bit of a kind of a reddish-brown color in its tail. Not really bright red, obviously. And some striping in it. Now, how many of you guys have seen red-tailed hawks before? Even if you think you haven't, you probably have, because there are a lot. There's probably some I bet there's some right around this area if you have any open areas for them to hunt. Red-tailed hawks are very common. It's probably one of the most common raptors that we have in Minnesota. But he looks a little different than most red-tailed hawks that we see here. And so if you're looking around this area for a red-tailed hawk, most of the time they're not really that dark brown. They're more of the closer to the brown on the floor here, a little bit lighter than that. And then instead of that, because you see his wings come out a little bit. Now, all of the birds we use in programs like this are birds that got hurt somehow, right, and can't go back to the wild. And so you'll notice, you see that wing over there? See how it's hanging down compared to the other one? He hurt his wing, and do you think he can fly with his wing like that? No, very, very poor flight. It's very hard for him to fly. And especially if one wing is different than the other wing, when you try to fly, you end up kind of flying in a circle instead of flying. When they dive down, they've been clocked at over 200 miles an hour. So birds like this in a dive, they're as fast as a race car. Fast as a race car. Very, very fast bird. So that's the thing that gives them an advantage in hunting. If you're flying 200 miles an hour and you're hunting something, do you want to hunt stuff on the ground? You don't want to fly at the ground at 200 miles an hour, right? That's pretty scary. And so this bird is hunting stuff that's up in the air. What's up in the air that it could eat? Other birds. It eats other birds. And that's the yeah, and so what they do, they fly up, they tuck their wings in, we call it a stoop when they dive like that. And when they'll actually fly at the bird in kind of a curve like this. They won't go straight at it because they can see it a little better and they can fly faster in a curve than they can straight. And once they get close, they try to grab it with their feet. Yeah. And sometimes they can't catch it. They might hit it with their feet and they might knock it to the ground. And usually they hunt things that are smaller, right? So most of these birds, they're looking for things that are at least half their size or or smaller. But this bird is capable of catching things that are bigger. They have, I spend more time picking stuff up when I have her. Either her. But, so, it's a peregrine falcon. And peregrine, the word peregrine means wanderer, and that's because these birds will migrate, they'll fly around different places. Now, in peregrine falcons, they look different their first year than they do the second year. So she's only 1 year old. And you see what color is she? She's white on the front, a little bit of white splotchy stuff, and this is kind of a brown color. It's a little bit different brown than the other brown. She's better about tearing out stuff than she is about eating those things. So you can see look how she's holding it in her foot. Now she's going to squish it underneath it. And at some point she's going to look around, make sure everything's safe, because she wants to make sure she's okay when she's doing this, because she has to put her head down in order to eat. So she's going to hold it there, and then she's going to look around, and when she feels comfortable, then she'll start eating. Play around. Oh, she wants to be right-footed instead of left-footed. But you can see that she's going to tear off. She's going to tear off little pieces with her beak. So she's holding it down with her. She's using her foot kind of like a fork, and the beak is like a knife that can tear off pieces. Now, when she's really hungry, she'll tear off big pieces. And if she's not so hungry, she'll tear off little pieces, and she'll throw the stuff she doesn't like on the floor. And that's part of why we have this little part here. The floor cleaner. She'll take a bite, and she'll look up. And then she'll take a couple of bites maybe, and then she'll look up. And that's because she can't see anything when her head is down. So she has to look up and make sure everything's okay. Now, do you usually think owls make that noise? It's a little different sound than you're used to hearing. And that is because that sound tells me something about what's wrong with this owl. So, did anybody see anything wrong with him? His feet look pretty good, right? His wings are even. His eyes look good. So there isn't anything wrong with the body of this bird. His body side, a lot of times the feathers stick up a little bit right in that spot. And so he can listen for stuff that's running around. And one of the things he likes to eat is mice. So I have a mouse for him to eat. And it's a whole mouse, but it's dead. So if I drop it or something, it won't run around. You don't have to worry about that. If you don't want to see him eat it, you don't have to. But it's generally pretty quick. And just watch him. Now he has to be quiet to get the mouse. And he has to turn his head away. And he's trying to figure that out. Right, here he goes. Oh, that was good. Yeah, so he's still trying to get the tail down. The tail's the hard part. So,